David Cole knew he was going to die. Warning lights in his small cargo ship turned red. The engine screamed. Smoke filled the cockpit. He pulled hard on the controls, but the ship did not listen anymore. Through the cracked window, he saw a green moon rushing toward him. Trees, mountains, water. It looked almost like Earth, but he knew it was not. This was Valari space. Humans were not welcome here. The ship hit the trees first. Branches broke against the metal. David held tight to his seat as the world spun around him. Then came the ground. The crash was loud and violent. Metal bent, glass shattered, everything went dark. When David opened his eyes, he was hanging upside down in his seat. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his head. His left arm hurt badly. Maybe broken, maybe not. He did not have time to check. Fire was spreading in the back of the ship. David released his seat belt and fell hard to the ceiling below him. He crawled toward the emergency hatch, kicking it open with his boots. Fresh air rushed in. He pulled himself out and dropped onto soft grass. Behind him, his ship burned. David crawled away until he reached a large tree. He sat against it and watched everything he owned turn to ash. His radio was in there, his food, his water, his way home. He was alone on an alien moon with nothing but the clothes on his back. For a long moment, David just sat there. He wanted to give up. He wanted to close his eyes and let the universe take him. But something inside him refused. Humans were stubborn. His father always said that when the world pushes you down, you push back harder. David stood up on shaking legs. He looked around. The forest was thick and green. Strange birds called from the trees. The air smelled sweet like flowers after rain. He needed water. He needed shelter. He needed to survive. The first 3 days were the hardest. David walked until he found a stream. The water looked clear, but he did not trust it. He built a small fire using rocks and dry wood. He boiled the water in a piece of metal he pulled from the crash site. It took hours, but he drank clean water that night. Food was harder. He did not know which plants were safe. He caught small animals using traps made from wire and sticks. He cooked everything well. Some of it tasted terrible, but he ate it anyway. By the 5th day, David had built a small shelter near the stream. He used branches, leaves, and pieces of his broken ship. It was ugly, but it kept him dry when the rain came. His arm was not broken, just badly bruised. He made a sling from his torn shirt and let it rest. On the 7th day, everything changed. David was collecting wood when he heard a sound, a scream, high and afraid. It came from deeper in the forest. He should have ignored it. He was weak and hurt and alone. Whatever was out there was not his problem, but David ran toward the sound anyway. He pushed through thick bushes and jumped over fallen logs. The screaming got louder. Then he reached a clearing and stopped. A young woman stood with her back against a rock wall. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and silver hair. Her eyes were wide with terror. She wore fine clothes made of silk and gold. She was clearly someone important. But that was not what made David's heart stop. In front of her stood 3 massive beasts. They were black as night, with 6 legs and mouths full of sharp teeth. Their eyes glowed red. They moved slowly, circling her like wolves around wounded prey. David had no weapon, no armor, no plan. He grabbed a burning branch from a nearby lightning struck tree. Then he ran into the clearing, screaming at the top of his lungs. Beasts turned, they saw him. For a moment they seemed confused. This small creature was challenging them. David swung the fire at the first beast. It jumped back with a hiss. The second one lunged at him. David rolled to the side and drove the burning end into its face. The beast screamed and fell back, but the third one was faster. It caught David across the chest with its claws. Pain exploded through his body. Blood soaked his shirt. He fell to the ground, but did not let go of his branch. Beast stood over him, ready to kill. David looked up at those red eyes. He thought about Earth. He thought about the blue sky and the green grass and the people he would never see again. Then he drove the branch upward with all his strength. The sharp end went through the beast's throat. It made a terrible sound and collapsed. On top of him, David pushed the dead creature off. He stood up, blood pouring from his wounds. The other two beasts looked at their fallen brother. Then they looked at the bleeding human who refused to die. They ran. David dropped to his knees. The world was spinning. He heard footsteps coming closer. The blue-skinned woman was walking toward him. Her face showed shock and something else. Wonder maybe you saved me, she said. Her voice was soft and musical. You are human, David tried to answer, but his body had given everything it had. He fell forward into the grass. Last thing he heard was the woman calling for help. When the Valeri guards arrived, they found something impossible. Their princess Lena stood unharmed. Around her lay two dead shadow fangs, the most dangerous predators on the moon, and at her feet lay a human, small and weak and covered in blood. Guards had trained for years. They had the best weapons in the galaxy, yet none of them had ever killed a shadow fang alone. This human had killed two with a burning stick. Princess Lena looked down at the unconscious man who had saved her life. She did not know his name. She did not know why he was here, but she knew one thing for certain: she would not let him die. Take him to the palace, she ordered. Give him the best healers. Save him. The guards hesitated. He was human, an alien, an outsider. Now, Princess Lena said, and her voice was still. They obeyed. David Cole was carried away from the forest, away from death, and into a fate far stranger than anything he could imagine. David woke up in a bed softer than clouds. The sheets were made of something smooth and cool against his skin. The room around him was huge, with tall windows that let in golden light. The walls were decorated with paintings of strange worlds and stranger creatures. He sat up slowly. His chest was wrapped in clean bandages. The pain was still there, but it was dull now, far away. Whatever medicine they had given him was working. For a moment, David thought he was dreaming. Then the door opened and reality came back. A woman walked in. She was tall and beautiful, with the same pale blue skin as the girl from the forest, but this woman was older. Her silver hair was pulled back tight. Her eyes were cold and sharp, like knives made of ice. She wore a crown of white crystal on her head. Behind her came 4 guards in silver armor. David knew immediately who this was. A queen. You are awake, she said. Her voice was calm and controlled. Good, we have much to discuss. David tried to stand, but his legs were too weak. He stayed in the bed and met her eyes. Where am I? You are in my palace. I am Queen Vera of the Valeri Empire. You saved my daughter's life. David remembered the girl with silver hair, the beasts, the fire and blood. Is she okay? Lena is unharmed, thanks to you. The Queen's face showed no emotion. You have my gratitude, thank you for helping me, David said. I need to contact my people. My ship crashed in. They will be looking for me. If you could just let me use a communication device, I can. No, the word hung in the air like a blade. David blinked. I'm sorry. Queen Vera walked closer to his bed. She looked down at him the way a scientist looks at an interesting insect. You misunderstand your position, human. You are not a visitor here. You are not a guest. You are a treasure. David's blood went cold. What do you mean? My people have watched humans from afar for many years. We considered you a weak species, short lives, fragile bodies, limited technology. You were not worth our attention. She paused. But you have changed my mind. I don't understand. You crashed your ship and survived. You lived alone in a hostile forest for 7 days. You fought 3 shadow fangs with nothing but fire and a stick. You killed 2 of them. The Queen's eyes narrowed. No, Valari could do what you did. Our soldiers trained for decades and still fear those creatures. Yet you, a small and broken human, defeated them through pure will. David shook his head. I was just trying to help. I didn't think about it exactly. The Queen smiled, but it was not a warm smile. You did not think, you simply acted. That is what makes humans so fascinating. Your bodies are weak, but your spirits are unbreakable. I want to understand why, so send me home, David said. Send scientists to Earth, study us there. That would take too long, and I already have a perfect subject right here. Queen Vera turned toward the door. You will remain in the palace. My doctors will examine you. My scholars will study you. You will be given everything you need to be comfortable. And if I refuse, the Queen stopped walking. She did not turn around. You will not refuse, because if you do, I will send soldiers to find more humans to study, and I will not be gentle with them. David felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. He was hurt and alone and surrounded by enemies. Fighting now would be stupid. How long? He asked quietly. As long as it takes. The Queen left. The guards followed. The door closed behind them with a soft click. David was alone again, but this time his cage was made of gold and silk. Days passed, then weeks. David was treated well. The food was delicious. The doctors healed his wounds completely. He was given new clothes, soft and expensive. He could walk in the gardens and sit in the library. He could do almost anything he wanted, except leave. Guards followed him everywhere. They were polite, but their eyes never left him. Every door that led outside was locked. Every window was sealed. Princess Lena visited him often. She was different from her mother, kind and curious, with a quick smile and gentle voice. She brought him books about Valari history and taught him to read their language. She asked endless questions about Earth. What did the sky look like? What did humans eat? Did they really live in buildings made of glass? David answered her questions, and slowly they became friends. I am sorry, Lena said one evening. They were sitting in the garden watching twin moons rise over the palace walls. I told my mother to let you go. She refused. It's not your fault. It is. You saved me. You almost died for me, and now you are a prisoner because of it. David looked at her. She seemed so young, even though she was probably older than him by Valari years. Why does your mother want to study humans so badly? Lena was quiet for a moment. The Valeri have ruled this part of the galaxy for 1,000 years. We are strong and advanced and proud, but lately my mother has become afraid. Afraid of what? Of anything she cannot control. Lena pulled her knees to her chest. Humans spread fast, you build fast, you adapt fast. In a few hundred years you went from your first spaceship to colonies on other worlds. My mother sees you as a threat. We're not a threat, we just want to live and explore like everyone else. I know, but my mother does not see it that way. She thinks if she understands humans, she can control them or defeat them if she needs to. David felt something heavy settle in his chest. He was not just a curiosity. He was a weapon waiting to be built. That night David lay in his soft bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about his crew, his family, his home. He thought about the Queen's cold eyes and the guards who watched his every move. He thought about escape. It would be hard, maybe impossible. The Valeri were smarter than him, faster than him, and there were thousands of them. He had nothing but his body and his brain, but humans were stubborn. His father had said that when the world pushed you down, you pushed back harder. David closed his eyes and started to plan. David waited. He watched. He learned every morning the guards changed at sunrise. There was a gap of 3 minutes when the hallway outside his room was empty. Every afternoon the servants brought food at the same time. They always used the same door, the same path, the same routine. The Valeri were creatures of habit. They liked order and rules and schedules. David was not like that. Humans were messy. Humans broke patterns. That was his advantage. He spent weeks studying the palace. When Lena gave him books, he read maps hidden in the pages. When guards walked him through the gardens, he counted steps and memorized turns. When servants cleaned his room, he watched which keys they used and where they kept them. He learned the Valeri language until he could speak it almost perfectly. He listened to guards talk when they thought he could not understand. He heard about the shuttle bay on the east side of the palace. He heard about the weak points in the security system. He built a plan piece by piece like a puzzle made of shadows. Lady Mira, the Queen's advisor, visited him sometimes. She was older and wiser than most Valeri. With kind eyes that seemed troubled, she did not treat David like an animal. She treated him like a person. You are planning something, she said one day. They were alone in the library. I can see it in your eyes. David kept his face calm. I'm just reading. Humans are bad liars. Mira smiled softly. But do not worry. I will not tell the Queen. I think what she is doing is wrong. You saved her daughter. You deserve to go home. Then help me. Mira shook her head. I cannot. The Queen would know, but I can tell you this. The shuttle bay guards change at midnight and the access chips are kept in a drawer in the head servant's room. She stood and walked away without another word. David understood. She could not free him directly, but she could open doors. That night David made his move. He waited until the guards changed at midnight. He slipped out of his room through a window he had secretly unlocked days before. He crawled along a narrow ledge, his heart pounding in his chest. The servants' room was on the floor below. David climbed down using cracks in the stone wall. His fingers ached, his muscles screamed, but he did not stop. The room was empty. The servant was asleep in her quarters down the hall. David found the drawer and took an access chip. It was small and silver, about the size of a coin. He put it in his pocket and climbed back out. The palace at night was quiet and dark. David moved through the shadows like a ghost. He avoided patrols by hiding behind statues and inside empty rooms. He used the chip to open locked doors. He did not run, because running made noise. He walked slowly, carefully, every step planned. The shuttle bay was on the other side of the palace. It took him 2 hours to get there, 2 hours of holding his breath, of freezing in dark corners, of praying that no one would see him. When he finally reached the bay, he almost laughed. Ships of all sizes sat on the landing pads, their hulls gleaming under soft lights. Freedom was just a few hundred steps away. David picked a small shuttle. It looked fast and simple. He climbed inside and started pressing buttons. The controls were different from human ships, but the basic idea was the same. Power, engine, navigation, launch. The engine hummed to life. Then the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. The bay doors slammed shut. David heard footsteps, dozens of them, running toward him. He pushed the throttle forward, but the ship did not move. A locking clamp held it to the ground. Soldiers poured into the bay. They surrounded the shuttle with weapons raised. David looked through the window and saw Queen Vera walking toward him, calm as a winter morning. He had been so close. David opened the shuttle door and stepped out. He did not fight. There were too many of them. Fighting would only get him killed. Queen Vera stopped in front of him. For a long moment she just looked at him. Then slowly she smiled. Impressive, she said. David blinked to watch. No one has ever escaped the inner palace before, not our enemies, not our own traitors. The security system here is the best in the Empire, yet you made it all the way to the shuttle bay using nothing but a stolen chip in your own 2 hands. I almost made it. Almost is more than anyone else has ever done. The Queen's smile grew wider, but it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had found a new toy to play with. She turned to her soldiers. Take him back to his room. Double the guards, triple the locks. David felt rough hands grab his arms. He did not resist. Queen Vera leaned close to him. Her cold breath touched his ear. Thank you, David Cole. You have shown me exactly how dangerous humans can be. My scientists thought you were just physically resilient. But now, I know the truth. Your greatest weapon is your mind. Let me go, David said quietly. I'm not your enemy. No, you are something much more valuable. The Queen stepped back. You are proof. Proof that humans are not the weak creatures we thought. Proof that we must understand you before you become too powerful to stop. David was dragged away. The shuttle bay doors closed behind him. His escape had failed, but as he walked back to his golden cage, David did not feel defeated. He felt something else. He felt proud. He had made the Valari afraid. He had shown them that humans were not helpless. He was one man against an empire, and he had almost won. Next time, he told himself, next time I will make it. Lady Mira watched from the shadows as David was led away. She had seen the whole thing. She had seen a human do the impossible. Something was changing in the palace. Something was shifting, and Lady Mira wondered if the Queen understood what she had brought into her home. A storm was coming, and its name was humanity. Commander Ryan had not slept in 3 days. He sat in the bridge of his ship, staring at the star map on the screen. Somewhere out there, one of his men was trapped. David Cole, the young engineer who always fixed things before anyone asked, who laughed at bad jokes and shared his food with everyone. Ryan had promised David's mother he would bring her son home. He intended to keep that promise. The search had taken months. David's distress signal was weak, broken by the crash. Ryan's team had followed it through empty space and dangerous borders until finally they traced it to Valari territory, the Val. Ari claimed they had no human prisoner. They said David's ship had crashed and burned with no survivors. But Ryan knew they were lying. He could feel it in his bones, so he did something stupid. He gathered a small team of volunteers and flew into Valari. Space without permission, no backup, no support, just 6 humans in a single ship flying toward an empire that could destroy them with a thought. They were almost to the moon where David had crashed when Ryan received a message. The signal was weak and hidden and static, but Ryan recognized the voice immediately. David, Commander. This is David Cole. I'm alive. I'm in the Valari Palace on the northern continent, but you need to stop. The Queen knows you're coming. She's setting a trap. Turn back. Do not try to rescue me. Repeat, do not try to rescue me. Message ended. Ryan sat in silence. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. He wants us to leave him, said Lisa, the pilot. I heard. What do we do? Ryan closed his eyes. David had sacrificed his one chance at rescue to warn them. He could have stayed quiet and hoped. Instead, he chose to save his friends. That was the most human thing Ryan had ever heard. We go anyway, Ryan said. Commander, he said, it's a trap. I know. Ryan opened his eyes, but we don't leave our people behind. Ever. That's what makes us human. The crew nodded. They understood. They were afraid, but they understood. They changed their approach. Instead of landing directly at the palace, they came in from the dark side of the moon. They hid their ship in a canyon and approached on foot. It was slower, but it gave them a chance. The palace was beautiful and terrible. White walls rose toward the sky like frozen waves. Guards patrolled every entrance, every wall, every shadow. Getting in was almost impossible, but humans were good at almost impossible. Ryan's team used climbing gear to scale a cliff behind the palace. They cut through maintenance hatch and crawled through air ducts so small that only humans could fit. The Valari were tall and elegant. They had not designed their building for creatures who could squeeze through tiny spaces. They found David's room after 2 hours of searching. He was sitting on his bed reading a book when Ryan dropped from the ceiling. David jumped to his feet. Ryan, how did you? I told you not to come. Since when do I listen to you? Ryan grabbed David in a tight hug. Come on, let's go home. They ran through hallways and hidden passages, downstairs and through gardens. David led the way because he knew the palace now, every corner and every secret. They were 50 m from the wall. When the lights came on, Queen Vera stood in their path. Behind her stood 100 soldiers, weapons raised and ready. Did you really think I would not? No, the Queen said. I have watched every move you made since you entered my space. I let you come this far because I wanted to see what humans would do. Ryan stepped in front of his team. Let us go. We don't want a war, neither do I. The Queen's eyes moved to David. I Want to understand, and now I have more. Subjects to study, the soldiers moved. Forward, Ryan's team raised their weapons, but they were outnumbered 20-1. Fighting was suicide. Wait, David stepped forward. His voice was calm and steady. Take me. Let them go, David. No. Ryan said, I'm serious. David looked at the Queen. You want to study humans? I'll cooperate. I'll answer every question, submit to every test, but only if you let my friends leave safely. Queen Vera tilted her head. Why would you do that? Because that's what humans do. We protect our own. David spread his arms. You wanted to understand us. This is your answer. We would rather suffer alone than watch our friends get hurt. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Her cold eyes studied David like he was a puzzle she could not solve. Then she smiled. No. David's heart sank. What your offer is generous, but I refuse. Your willingness to sacrifice yourself is exactly what I want to study. If I let them go, I lose that. She waved her hand. Take them all. Soldiers rushed forward. Ryan's team fought, but there were too many. One by one, they were captured and forced to their knees. David knelt beside his commander. I'm sorry, I tried, I know. Ryan's voice was rough. We in LT Unk and GT LL figure something out. We always do. Lady Mira watched from the shadows. She saw the humans kneeling together, defeated but not broken. She saw them look at each other with trust and love. And something the Valari did not have a word for. She saw the Queen's face, satisfied and curious, and she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Shame. This was wrong. All of it was wrong. These humans had done nothing but try to save their friend. They deserved better than cages and experiments. Mira turned and walked away. She did not know what she would do, but she knew she could not stand by and watch anymore. The humans were taken to cells deep beneath the palace. They were separated but not alone. They could hear each other through the walls, tapping messages in old codes, reminding each other to stay strong. David lay in his new cell and stared at the ceiling. He had failed twice now, but he was not done. Humans never gave up. That was the one thing the Queen would never understand. Tomorrow he would find another way. 3 days passed in the cells beneath the palace. 3 days of darkness and silence and waiting. The Valari brought food and water, but no answers. David and his friends were alone with their thoughts. On the 4th morning, guards came for David. They led him through long hallways and up countless stairs until he stood before the great doors of the throne room. The doors opened and David walked in. Queen Vera sat on her throne of white crystal. She looked tired. David noticed there were shadows under her eyes that had not been there before. Around her stood her advisors, including Lady Mira, whose face showed nothing. Princess Lena stood to the side. When she saw David, her eyes filled with sadness and guilt. David Cole, the Queen said, I have questions for you. David stopped in the center of the room. He did not bow. He stood straight and met her eyes. Ask your commander. Ryan, he knew this was a trap. He came anyway. Why? Because he's human, that is not an answer. Yes, it is. David took a step forward. The guards moved, but the Queen raised her hand to stop them. You've been studying me for months. You've tested my body, my mind, my limits, but you still don't understand us. Then explain. David looked around the room. Every eye was on him. Every ear was listening. He took a deep breath and spoke, humans are not special. Because we're strong, we're not compared to most species in the galaxy. We're weak and small and short-lived. We can't see in the dark, we can't fly. We can't even survive on most planets. Without help, he paused, but we have something no one else has. We don't give up ever. When we're knocked down, we stand back up. When we lose, we try again. When someone tells us something is impossible, we do it anyway just to prove them wrong. The Queen leaned forward. That sounds like stupidity. Maybe, but it's also why Ryan came for me. He knew it was dangerous. He knew he might die, but he came anyway because humans don't abandon each other. That's not weakness, that's our greatest strength. And what happens now? The Queen asked. I have your friends. Your little rescue mission failed. What will your people do? David smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. They'll send more ships. When those fail, they'll send fleets. When the fleets fail, they'll send armies. And they will never ever stop. You can hold us prisoner, but you can't hold our spirit. We will keep coming until we get our people back, or until there's no one left to come. You would start a war over 7 prisoners. We've started wars over less. David's voice was quiet but strong. That's what you don't understand. To you, we're just subjects to study, but to humanity, every single one of us matters. Every life is worth fighting for. Every person is worth dying for. The throne room was silent. The advisors looked at each other with worried eyes. Even the guards seemed uncertain. Lady Mira stepped forward. Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider another path. Be silent. No. Mira's voice was calm but firm. I have served you for 40 years. I have never questioned your wisdom, but this is wrong. These humans saved your daughter. They came here in peace. They asked only to leave, and we have treated them like animals. The Queen's eyes flashed with anger. They are aliens. They are people. Mira gestured toward David. Look at him. He is tired and hurt and afraid. But he still stands before you without fear. He still speaks truth to power. He still fights for his friends. Is that not worthy of respect? Princess Lena walked to stand beside Mira. Mother, please let them go. Let me negotiate a treaty with their people. We don't have to be enemies. A treaty with humans, why not? Lena's voice was gentle but steady. They are different from us. Yes, but different is not dangerous. Different can be useful. Imagine what we could learn from each other. Imagine what we could build together. The Queen was quiet for a long time. She looked at David, at her daughter, at her advisor. She looked at the guards and the advisors and the empty throne room. Finally she stood. She walked down the steps of her throne until she was face to face with David. He did not move. He did not blink. You are either the bravest human I have ever met, she said softly, or the most foolish, maybe both. The Queen almost smiled. Almost. I kept you here to understand humanity's strength. I thought it was in your bodies, your minds, your technology. She shook her head slowly. I was wrong. Your strength is in your hearts, and that cannot be caged. She stepped back. Release them, all of them. The advisors gasped. The guards looked confused. But no one argued. David felt his legs go weak. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. The Queen returned to her throne. Princess Lena will accompany you to human space. She will serve as my representative. We will discuss terms of peace and cooperation. Lena's face lit up with joy. But know this, David Cole. The Queen's voice turned hard. If your people betray us, if they use this kindness as weakness, I will bring the full power of the Valeri Empire down upon them. There will be no mercy. David nodded, understood. The guards led him away. But this time they led him toward freedom. Commander Ryan and the others were released that afternoon. They walked out of the palace into warm sunlight, blinking and confused. When they saw David waiting for them, they cheered. Ryan grabbed David in a crushing hug. You did it, you crazy fool. You actually did it. I had help. David looked at Lena, who stood nearby with a small smile. We all did. Their ship was returned, repaired, and refueled. The Valeri watched them board with a mix of curiosity and respect. As the ship rose into the sky, David looked down at the palace one last time. He saw Queen Vera standing on her balcony, watching them leave. He raised his hand in a small wave. The Queen did not wave back, but she nodded just slightly. It was enough. David turned to face the stars. Home was waiting, and somewhere behind him, a new chapter in human history was beginning. They had come as prisoners. They left as ambassadors, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way.